ritorniamo amici sportivi in pista con questa griglia di partenza Coppa-Francorchamps, la gara che va a chiudere la parte agonistica del pomeriggio. Ricordo al termine ci sarà il programma X6 con giri liberi per le vetture laboratorio Ferrari, le 599 X6 e le FXXK, ma ripeto, griglia di partenza con la pole position di James Wayland.
We are here at the circuit Spa-Francorchamps and its second race of Coppa-Francorchamps. Now, with changing weather conditions, the race is going to start behind the safety car. As you can see, the mist is beginning to descend here at Spa-Francorchamps. And having just had quite a hectic and chaotic Trofeo Pirelli race, race control have decided that the start will be behind the Hublot safety car, which you can see now with a brilliant overhead shot of said car. And what a weekend we have had here at Spa-Francorchamps. Part of the Ferrari Racing Days, which had featured not only the Ferrari Challenge, but the XX programs and the F1 Clay NT, as well as a spectacular Ferrari show. Davide Rigon put a Ferrari F60 through its paces on track. And so too the XX programs. And some great fun to be had for everyone that took part in the Ferrari Racing Days here at Spa-Francorchamps, including some blistering races from the Coppa-Francorchamps and Trofeo Pirelli drivers. So Davide Rigon, as I said then, at the wheel of the 2009 Ferrari F60. First car to feature the kinetic energy recovery system. And some brilliant racing as well. It's all part of Ferrari Racing Days. And as the mist descends here at Spa-Francorchamps, the grid is set for the Coppa-Francorchamps race with James Wayland pole position alongside his Christophe Herney. Eric Prinot is the car that we're looking at right now, goes from P4 on the grid. The Ineco MP racing driver then, the Italian Eric Prinot, who thus far this season has taken a couple of wins in the opening rounds at Mugello and has been on the podium once since then in race 2 at Silverstone. He finished P8 yesterday. What can he do from P4 on the grid today? James Wayland then, who is pole position. The car, as you can see on the left-hand side there, the 118 car, also raced in the North American Series and the Asian Pacific Series, as well as the teams make their way off the grid ahead of the start of race 2 in Coppa-Francorchamps. All the information at races.ferrari.com. The must-go website, must-go-to website for all the information regarding the Ferrari Challenge. So visibility now here, really quite challenging in some parts of the circuit. Of course, it's such a long circuit, 7.004 kilometers the circuit here, and conditions in one part of the circuit completely different to another part of the circuit. So we are not many moments away from the formation lap or the safety car start of the race. So Coppa-Francorchamps race 2 then. souvenirs being taken from many of the fans here, and there you can see just how challenging the visibility is. James Wayland, pole position alongside Christoph Herney, then it's Eric Chung and Eric Prinot. Manuela Gosner, the lady racer, goes from P5, with Ernst Kirschmeyer rounding out the third row of the grid for this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race. Going from the next row of the grid, it is Tani Hanna and von Skelterma, Ingvar Madsen, Thomas Gosner, then Agata Smolka and Murat Kuhada-Ruglu rounding out the next rows through until row 6. Then on the next row, we will find Rick Lovett and Corinna Gosner, Guy Ford, Tina Koch, Ken Sato, Lauren Demus, Tommy Lindroth, Per Falholt, Henrik Kamstrup, Alexander Nussbaumer, Dusan Palkra, and Vladimir Hladek. Completing the grid of cars. Also, Vladimir Hladek not taking his position on the grid because a huge crash that he was involved in yesterday unfortunately means that he will not be on the grid. But thankfully, Vladimir Hladek is all okay. Let's hear from our pole sitter now.
Hello from Spa. Managed to snag pole position here in the rain for race 2. Very excited. Looking forward to the race.
So James Wayland then going from pole position in that 118 car. And the Hublot safety car then leading the cars away. The race has officially started because it is a start behind the safety car. We're expecting the safety car to stay in for one lap and then come in. And then the race will effectively be on. It's on now, of course, but absolutely no overtaking behind the safety car. So until the safety car rear comes in, we are awaiting the race start proper, as it were. So the Hublot safety car now, no message on our screen yet as to the safety car coming in at the conclusion of lap 1, just making its way to the top of Eau Rouge now. But we expect that. It's anticipation from our side. There is nothing official to tell us that. So then you can see the visibility gets slightly better as von Skelterma's partner looks on. She did tell me her name earlier and I've forgotten it already. It's failing memory age, isn't it? Apologies. So in the Rosso Corsa garages. And there is the 126 car of Henrik Kamstrup, the Baron service driver. And look at that in terms of lack of visibility. That's before going into Les Combes turns 5, 6 and 7. So the car is heading downhill towards the Bruxelles turn at number 8. Before coming back on themselves. There's the Ingvar Madsen car number 199. Ingvar Madsen, who has had a rich vein of form going into this weekend. He's taken 2 wins, a podium P2 and a P4 and a P8 in the races so far. P4 coming in race 1 yesterday in his class Shell Am. So split into 2 classes, the Shell drivers and then the Shell Am drivers as well. So as we speak, the cars making their way towards the turn 12, which is the right-hander. And through that right-hander they go. And the cars weaving from side to side as once again we go into the garages ahead of the safety car being, we anticipate, pulled in at the end of this lap. There is Fabian Volvend, who was on the top step of the podium just a few moments ago in the Trofeo Pirelli Am race. Fabian Volvend, lady racer, on the top step of the podium. Congratulations to her. Lights still flashing on the safety car. Some of the race fans that have joined us here for the Ferrari Racing Days event at Spa-Francorchamps through the turn 12, 13 chicane. Safety car lights still flashing, as you can see. So race control will make the decision as to whether the safety car can come in at the conclusion of this lap or just before the conclusion of this lap. And then we can get to racing properly, as it were. Of course, the clock continues to count down because officially the race has started. There's the Laurent Demus car. Car number 145. Laurent, a truly lovely gentleman to talk to. had the privilege of spending some time with him yesterday. He is a Belgian and was extolling the virtues of Spa, which indeed is a lovely town, just a few minutes drive from the circuit here. Spent some time there on Friday evening. There is Manuela Gosner in car number 183, lady racer Manuela Gosner, who's going from P5 on the grid. And you certainly wouldn't bet against Manuela Gosner perhaps propelling herself into a podium finish here in this race. In the meantime, there is race leader James Wayland, P2, Christoph Herney, P3, Eric Chung, who of course was victorious and actually took pole position in the race yesterday and took the race win as well. So safety car then is going to do another lap then, because we're going through the bus stop chicane now behind the safety car. So what I suspect will happen is that the safety car will increase pace significantly now over this lap, so allowing the drivers to go a bit quicker and get up to speed a little bit more before perhaps being taken in at the end of this lap. So it does mean that the race becomes something of a sprint race, because the last lap, well, it took some 4.5 minutes to complete. So another 4.5 minutes means we're going to be down to sort of 20 minutes of race action, really. On board with Ingvar Madsen. And there is the Rick Lovett and Corinna Gosner car. And Corinna making contact with Rick Lovett and launching the back of the car and causing significant damage to the front of the Corinna Gosner car. So completely missed braking and ran into the back of Rick Lovett. Now, thanks very much to our team for getting us the replay of that. It was probably quite innocuous, actually. It looked more devastating as we looked at it in slow-mo, but I suspect the cars were just not going fast enough for that to be of any particular consequence. The visibility is reduced still further. So very difficult to see. Now, I do appreciate we're looking through the lens of one of our cameras there, but even so, with the lights on. Incidentally, the incident that we've just seen involving Corinna Gosner and Rick Lovett is under investigation. So that's been picked up by race control, and that will be under investigation. Because, you know, it's a racing incident. We are in the race, and unfortunately, it does look like it might be retirement for Rick Lovett. He's had a torrid weekend of it. Finished P10 yesterday, adding to a P11 and a DNF at Silverstone. Rick Lovett not having a good time of it in that Octane 126 car. So, now, from what we saw, I wouldn't have said that Rick Lovett was brake testing Corinna Gosner, but we did see it in slow-mo, so job to call that one. So the cars behind the safety car then, in this the second Coppa Shell race. The race that was won by Eric Chung yesterday. P2 was Christoph Herney, and P3 was Thomas Gosner, who's not had such a good qualifying today. The qualifying session was very much in the rain, and Thomas Gosner, the best he could do was effectively P9 in his class. It was P10 overall, because he was actually beaten in qualifying by Ingvar Madsen, car that we were on board with just a few moments ago, but Ingvar Madsen racing in a different class, in the AM class. So still no word with regards to when the safety car will come in. Another lady racer is Agata Smolka, who is second quickest in the Shell AM class, and qualified P2 effectively in the Shell AM class. It's P11 overall, but nonetheless, and there you can see her car center picture there with the red underneath and the dark blue. Lights still on the safety car, so good qualifying from Agata Smolka. And there is Rick Lovett out of the car. So talking to Björn Grossman there from Octane 126. So unfortunately for Rick Lovett, the Canadian racer, he is out of the race. Significant damage therefore, presumably to the back of his car, and it was run into by a member of this team, the Ineco MP racing team. It was Corinna Gosner that went into the back of Rick Lovett's car. So we're on board the Hublot safety car, which is staying out for another lap. So now the safety car is speeding up significantly, and hopefully that will mean that at the conclusion of this lap, which means it's going to be down to almost 15 minutes of racing, we're back on board with Ingvar Madsen. So the 488 Challenge car, then you can see it's a fantastic onboard shot, because you can see as Ingvar Madsen turns in through Lassour's turn, you can see the dashboard fully. So the shards and beams of light coming off the headlights here. Back on board with Ingvar Madsen into fifth gear now, weaving from side to side to try and generate some temperature into the tyres. And through Eau Rouge, which really doesn't look like much of a climb when you're inside the car at that, from the particular camera angle that we have there, but when you actually stand at the bottom of Eau Rouge, and looks really rather quite a bit steeper than that camera angle would lend you to believe. If anything, I would say visibility is worsened still further for the Coppa Shell drivers. And so the Rick Lovett conversation continuing with the Octane 1216. So regrettably, Rick is going to be able to take no further part in this race, and we'll end up watching it from inside the garages, which is a great shame. So we're down to 19.5 minutes now, and I would have suggested that the safety car ought to come in at the end of this lap, but of course that order is down to race control. Incidentally, Alessandro Pierguidi, the official Ferrari GT driver here, who is in race control this weekend, will be advising race control in terms of what it's like from a driver's eye perspective. Whether he has any influence in terms of when the safety car comes in or not, I know not. But we do know that he is in race control. So every Ferrari Challenge round this year with a driver representative in race control. Right at the back of the pack, the 136 car of Alexander Nussbaumer. And here we can see in replay once again the incident with Corinna Gosner and Rick Lovett. So the damage pretty superficial on the Corinna Gosner car, but clearly bigger damage on the back of the Rick Lovett car, which has caused him to be standing in the garage and not taking part in the race, having to retire the car. So you can see him in discussion there with Vincenzo, one of the race officials. Lights on the safety car continue being illuminated. We're down to 17.5 minutes of the race remaining. Back on board with Ingvar Madsen, down through the gearbox into third gear, braking, and turns in now. Beginning to ask myself whether this safety car is going to come in or not. Because we're very nearly reaching half race distance, having not had a really proper racing lap yet. And I would have thought that conditions now, well, we keep looking at that shot down the Kemmel Straight, and we'll look at it again doubtless when the cars get up there in just a few moments' time. And I think that's the biggest cause for concern is in terms of visibility here at Spa-Francorchamps. Now, whether it's got still further worse or not, job to know. Basically, oh, it has. It's much worse. It is much worse. So that will be the reason why the safety car is staying out there. We're on board with Ingvar Madsen once again. It's just this pocket of mist. And certainly from the previous shot we saw just how bad it was. So I was going to say that the driver of the safety car is, of course, in radio contact with race control at all times, and will be reporting back what the conditions are like on every single meter of the circuit here at Spa-Francorchamps. And let's see again the mist lurking. And then as you go downhill, you kind of come out of that pocket of mist. So the Rick Lovett car then is returned to the Octane 126 garage, regrettably not able to take any further part in the race. Scudamore there with the shark's teeth on the front of his Cassell car, weaving from side to side, as indeed all the drivers are. As they make their way through that chicane, we zoom in on the 186 car of Agata Smolka. Aggie Smolka then, who is driving that 186 car, making her debut in the Ferrari Challenge this year and making a jolly good job of it, dare I say. Having been on the podium twice with 2 P2s for the Rosso Corsa team, and there is the 100 car of Tina Koch, who is a very welcome returnee to the Ferrari Challenge as well. Has missed out on the Mugello and Silverstone rounds, but back here at Spa-Francorchamps, where she took a P8 yesterday. So Blanchiment for the Hublot safety car, and still no word, I'm afraid to say, on our timing screen, and the lights continuing to flash on the safety car. And it's only when the lights go out on the safety car that we know, and that gives due warning to the drivers at the front of the pack that the safety car period is coming to a close. So through the bus stop chicane once again at what must be for the racing drivers extremely frustratingly slow speed behind this safety car. So the only drama that we've seen on the track was Corinna Gerstner running into the back of Rick Lovett's car, which has caused Rick Lovett sadly to have to retire. Corinna Gerstner is still out there. I am now beginning to wonder whether they're going to let 75% of the race go behind the safety car before declaring it. Because, you know, if a safety car comes in now, we're going to be under 10 minutes of racing by the time the safety car has completed this lap. I mean, that's the reason why. Visibility along the Kemmel Straight is horrific. No question about that from this angle. But everywhere else on the track, and I mean, to be fair, once you see it now from being on board with a safety car, it doesn't look quite so horrific. But nonetheless, driver safety is, of course, crucially important, and we completely and totally understand that and respect whatever decisions race control are having to make, which are always difficult decisions. All I'm trying to do is try and justify the reasons for doing what they are doing. But I have to say, in my view, as a pure outsider, if the safety car were to come in now and you were to release the cars into race condition for what will effectively be less than 10 minutes, it's going to be such a dash that you could actually do more damage than good, I would say. Oh, and there you can see there is significant damage. Yeah, sure enough, we've got a red flag. Significant damage to the back end of the Rick Lovett car. We saw that right at the start of the race. So, red flag. Von Skeltermar just running off the track there. I mean, it must be immensely frustrating for a racing driver sitting in the car at these speeds behind the safety car. We have a red flag. The race is being, I can only assume, suspended or stopped. Well, quite clearly because we have a red flag, but I cannot imagine that it will be restarted, and I can see no reason why, because at the end of the day, the conditions are not going to improve. So there from another one of our cameras, you can see, well, even with high vises on, it's almost impossible to see at that part of the track. So race control have decided to red flag the race. So as soon as we have any more information, we will of course bring it to you. They have now stopped the clock at 11:18. So the race is going to be suspended with no restart, and presumably because they have done as much of the racing they have done, 50% of points will be awarded. So the race result will stand as it is, but it will only be for half points. Right, that's the information that we have. Cars being taken back into the pit lane. So apologies for what has been really rather something of a damp squib, but conditions are such that there was really nothing that anybody could do, and I completely respect the decisions, as frustrating as they may be. Which is a very creditable result. In super slow-mo then, the top three, for what it's worth. And Ingvar Matsson's car there. And, well, there we have it. I assume we're going to be having podiums as we ordinarily would. Yes, definitely we are going to be having podiums, as hollow as they might be. I think the celebrations on the podium will be particularly elaborate. But there, confirmation then of the result. James Whalen, Christoph Herney, Eric Chung taking the 1, 2, 3 in the Shell, and Ingvar Matsson, Agata Smolka and Murad Kuhardaroglu taking the 1, 2, 3 in the AMS. So the red lights then tell the story, I'm sorry to say, of the race that wasn't. Full classification then: Weyland, Herney, Eric Chung, then Eric Prenot, Manuela Gosner, Ernst Kirschmeyer, Tanny Hanna, von Skeltermar, Thomas Gosner and Guy for the top 10. Ken Sato will finish P11. And Tommy Lindroth, B12. And then Corinna Gosner, P13, with Rick Lovett, of course, with DNF. So drivers will be hustled up to an extremely curious podium. In fact, one of the most curious that I think I will have ever presented. And an immensely frustrating one, I can only feel, probably for the drivers who certainly don't want to be parading their 488 challenge cars around like they have had to. Pick up on some of the AM classifications though. As we look at the challenge show, Tina Cock will finish P4 in. The Drivers' Championship then, Eric Prinot on 74 points, Christoph Herney on 60.5. Why 0.5? Well, that race that we have just not seen only counts for half points. So that's why we've got half points in the equation now. Eric Chung, P3, and Thomas Gosner, P4. And there you can see the rest of the order. So we'll be heading up to the podium shortly. So we await the podium then, 2 podiums. Is that Michael Mambelli who's taken to the microphone singing? I think not. On the podium we will see in the Shell classification. P1 for James Wayland, P2 will be Christoph Herney, and P3 Eric Chung. In the AM podium, it will be Ingvar Madsen, Agata Smolka, and Murat Kuhada-Ruglu.